Hi everyone, Anthony Take Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well, and it is time for a review of the new Loathe album. I let it in and it took everything. This is the sophomore album of UK band Loathe, which I mostly came upon because it was kicking up some dirt in the metal scene and I was getting some pretty persistent requests to cover this thing. Curiosity got the best of me, and I will admit this album does feature a pretty cool and somewhat unlikely combination of sounds from an era of rock music that I remember pretty vividly. Ideas that at the time wouldn't have necessarily been mixed together in the way that they are on this record. I'm talking thunderous metalcore riffs that are occasionally beefed up to the point where they're super sludgy, abrasive, maybe think Dillinger Escape Plan, but not quite as mathy or complex. Or even imagine that grinding, very harsh, gent guitar tone, but not so much focused on drawing up these super rhythmically dense riffs that basically are just masturbatory and boring anyway. Now, much of the time, Loathe tends to take the edge off of these heavier sections with these smooth, soaring alt-rock passages, which basically sound like something off of a Deftones album. I get the attraction. I mean, Deftones are easily one of the most popular, enjoyable, unique, and consequential rock bands of the past 20 years. But why you'd want their influence to show up in your music in a way that is so on the nose, I'm not sure. I mean, it's actually distracting how derivative it is. Now, keep in mind, the band's performances and execution during these sections is not terrible. I suppose it's just sort of missing something like a unique approach, because this is a lot of time on your record to be devoting to a sound that is just like a carbon copy of another band. A very popular band, mind you. Like pretty much the entirety of the track Two-Way Mirror, or Is It Really You? Even the song A Sad Cartoon, which is maybe the most glaring ripoff on the entire LP, even if the slightly heavier guitars on this track sort of breathe new life into the sound. It feels like I'm listening to Chino sing on top of like a Torch instrumental or something. Much of the song Screaming as well sounds like some very metallic art rock with some pretty righteous riffs. There are portions of Aggressive Evolution that sound pretty Deftones inspired as well. New Faces in the Dark too, though I do think this track has one of the more unique song structures on the record. I love these dramatically screamed passages, the way they transition into this dark ambient section, and the very heavy, riffy, noise-filled finale the song finishes off with. While I understand the way forward for a lot of bands of this stripe is to be as versatile as possible, it's part of the reason I love groups like Code Orange. If you're going to bring genres together as far separated as sludgy noisecore and alternative rock, like, at least throw some other sounds in there to break it up so the combination isn't so repetitive and obvious. Granted, Loathe does do their best to break up the track list of this thing with cool interludes, and there's even a cut here, the song Heavy is the Head That Falls with the Weight of 1,000 Thoughts, that opens with a pretty heavy atmospheric black metal intro. There's also the closer, which is a pretty epic finish to the album and features multiple phases, is very dynamic and crushing. Overall, there's nothing really terrible about this record. I just wish stylistically it had more going on for it in terms of just change-ups and a variety of influences it's pulling from instead of just a handful of really obvious ones and combining them in a very simple and basic way. There are also some tracks that are just straight ragers too, like the cut GORED, or even Broken Vision Rhythm, two of my favorites in the entire record. I mean, the mix and the riffs on these tracks is impeccably heavy and the performances are savage as fuck. But still, I would hate for the band to completely abandon this idea of changing their sound up and being a bit of a musical chameleon of sorts. I guess in the future I'm just looking for a more exciting combination of the various influences the group puts into their sound, and maybe just a less obvious spin on the groups that clearly inspire you. Because, you know, even the most derivative songs in the track list here do have some presentable ideas, some decent writing, good performances, and a decent sound. They just need a little something to push them over the edge. So overall, I thought this was a decent record, a good flow, Great, heavy, crisp production, some heavy hitters here and there in the track list. I suppose you could say I feel the band has a lot of potential at this point, despite this not being one of my top rock records of the year. I'm feeling a strong 6 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video for you to check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, music, Loathe, forever.